we will have, he has a very good Chinese name, Qiao Anlan, Morten, Sten, Johansen, from the Regional Marine Director, Northeast Asia at Jotun and Chairman of Norwegian Business Association China. 他有2个身份啊。
You can see this gentleman got 2 different role and positions. So one is in the Northeastern Asia as the Johansen chairman, and the other is the chairman of the Norway Business Association China.
陈彬先生，上海振华。
The Mr. Chen Bin, who is the vice president of the Shanghai Zhenhua Port Machinery. So please take a seat.
Okay, then we have Mr. 李长伟，海蓝信科技集团总工程。
Who is also the chief engineering of the Highland Technology. Please take a seat. Please take a seat.
Okay. My name is Feng. 我是环球时报英文版的。
And I'm the managing director of the Global Times Shanghai Newsrooms. I feel so honored to be the moderator for this session. Later, if the time allows, we'd like to invite everyone to interact with our panelists. We just now already mentioned that we are going to use technology and design to reshaping the marine engineering and industry. Well, from yesterday to the last session was mentioned a lot, such as in marine economy. We can see the investment is always the big challenge in the staring at our face. We need a big talent and wisdom to help us to stand out from the traditional industry and win our own opportunities. That's why we're
engineering industry. 说很容易啊，做起来。
It's easy said than done. So that's why today we're going to mention several points, such as technology. They are like the high-end technology. They're going to involve the IoT, the robots, big data, and also electronic technology, etc. So why an industry in good shape needs to reshaping itself in this era? Well, the pressure comes from the within and without. Within and outside. So sometimes it is the decarbonization and also the carbon emission reduction pressure and also some environmental protection pressure, etc. All these institutes want everyone around the world to carry forward all these environmental protection rules. Otherwise, it will be squeezed out of the market. The other thing is like for the enterprises, if you want to maintain your competitive edge, you need to have the internal update so that you will always keep your edge. And I would like to quote from one panelist yesterday: technology innovation or technology application in this era, there will not only be a fundamental development issue, they're going to concern your survival. Because if it's like innovate or die. So
it's related to survival. That's why we have to and would be willing to embrace for the technological application in this marine engineering or equipment industry. That's a very heavy topic for me. 我是一个外行在这方面. I'm a layman. So I would like to give my time to the experts here and also online. 所以我们那个及早把时间转给我们的那个就驾。
So now let's give the floor to our panelists. We'd like to hear the insights and also the other opinions from our speakers.
I'd like to have 陈彬。就说我们的那个上海振华
Mr. Chen Bin is a vice president from the Shanghai Zhenhua Port Machinery. I would like to invite Mr. Chen to give you the opening speech and also introduction. So, well, as a vice president from a big company, Mr. Chen Bin has enjoyed experience in this industry. Mr. Chen, would you mind to share with us a Zhenhua example? Well, thank you so much, your moderator, and also hello everyone. I feel so honored to participate in today's session. Well, for the Zhenhua port machinery, I think everyone heard about the Zhenhua because of ports equipment. The other is the marine equipment and engineering equipment, and they are the super large equipment. People say that it's like the miracle in this industry. And just now, moderator has mentioned that innovation is an important topic. innovation are going to concern the survival of enterprises. And according to me, innovation are not going to help you to keep a competitive position in this market. After the introduction of our moderator, and we realize and also said that talents is definitely the first capital, and which has also mentioned by President Xi Jinping. And according to my understanding, for over 20 growths of the Zhenhua port machinery, I personally have involved in this industry. Zhenhua Enterprises has been established in 1992. I joined this company 2 years after the company's foundation. So you can see that I'm definitely among the first batch of talents. So Zhenhua can enjoy such advantage is due to several reasons. In 1997 will already be ranked top. The first place in the marine economy around the world right now accounts for 70% of the important positions. And now you can see that Zhenhua is like the business card. It represents the innovation. So I think this echo perfectly with Shenzhen's special economic zone's 40 years anniversary. I believe that for enterprises, if they want to stand out, they need to be brave enough to start from scratch. Well, this has been mentioned by President Xi Jinping, that we need to be, you dare to be the first, dare to be the pioneer. Well, after our establishment in 1992, that means that Chen, our first president, when he established this company, he always believed that they want to build a company to be the world first. And this is also has been the undermining tone of our spirit. We want to make a world record each year. And so you can see that we got some famous products that have been familiar by everyone. We have initiated a revolution in the past. The lifter in the past, they can only lift one container at one time, but right now we have innovated this pattern. We can lift two containers, which is like 20 inches, 20 feet. We can start a lot of practice from scratch. And all this innovation has been started by the Zhenhua port machinery. You can see that innovation means you are there to start first. The other thing I would like to mention is like for the Zhenhua port machinery, for many years in the past, we always believe that the innovation is the path we need to take, although it's like a hard path. Especially we need to have some internal update. No matter what kind of odds lay at our path, you need to be patient. And you need to get the capability to endure the loneliness along this path. And according to Chinese wisdom, they believe that the loneliness are going to lead to the great wisdom. And sometimes they are going to take many years, not going to happen overnight. And right now, for the Zhenhua port machinery, they are going to lead the smart ports. Well, smart ports is also the one part that Zhenhua has done amazing jobs. Whether it is a Dongfeng port and the other ports, you can see they has been carried out the instruction under the Zhenhua project. I remember that one has signed an agreement with us at that time. It's a really grand gesture. We have held the signing agreement in the People's Hall, and in the start of 2000, we already started the initiation and also the design for the smart ports. We have to go through a really long time and journey. At that time, for the unmanned operation is totally a cutting-edge idea. So that's why we always say that it takes at least 10 years to have some innovating measures. You need to be able to endure the loneliness along this innovation process. The other thing, you need to be willing to listen to the voices and ideas of the patients, users. Well, I have traveled here from Fujian province. We have also involved personally in the Fuzhou project. And we always mention that we want to start it with a maritime Silk Road construction project. And right now we have invested a lot of times in those like the sea farming equipment. Right now in Fujian, we have invested one project for test run. Well, this has definitely come from the listening to our users' demands. We have solved the farmers' issue, especially right now. We notice like sometimes they say that the farmers not hardworking enough. Perhaps they are going to fish for 3 days and also to lay their net for rest for 2 days. In the past, people believe that this is not something good for the farmers, but right now we believe this practice exists for a certain reason, because like Otherwise, they're going to cause like the pollution. The pollution is the same for the fishing net. So that's why right now for Zhenhua port machinery, we got like net switching equipment. It means like you can have the fishing every day and also have the net wrestling for every day. At the same time, they definitely first measure and the first inventions from Zhenhua port machinery, because we want to listen to the demands and needs of those users, and also to give full play to it and transfer them to new inventions. So that's why these days we would like to build a really good friend circle, because for each enterprises, you should know that it's so difficult for you to do every job totally by yourself. Well, right now, you need to know that the labor distribution is necessary, and sometimes you get a really detailed subdivision markets. That's why you need to reach out to the top-notch markets, and also reach out to the research institute and higher education institute to have the long-term sound relationship. And we also reach out to the Shanghai and other party to get a partnership. And such as the ABB is also our long-term partnership and partners. We want to get a really good friend circle and community and get the trustworthy partners. So the fourth part, I would like to say that you need to find a good partnership.
In order to innovate, we must seize the industrial trend. So since its inception in 1992, Shenzhen this year marks the 40th anniversary of the inception of Shenzhen Special Economic Zone, and the same year with the inception of Zhenhua port machinery. And that year also marked the collapse of the Berlin Wall, and the world trade witnessed blossoming. So, and then China ascended into WTO, and then the trend of globalization. All these trends and things have guaranteed the blossoming of this industry, and it drives the efficiency of terminals and ports. So our R&D focus at that time was to increase the efficiency of our terminals and ports and dive down the cost. So I think it's very important to seize the trend in this industry. And also, I think we should pay attention to the cutting-edge technologies that is particularly relevant today. Now, many disruptive technologies will lead to industrial changes. So for Zhenhua port machinery, at very early stages, we are paying close attention to technological breakthroughs. 80% of our terminals and ports are involved in export and import. Our GPS application was very early as an ancillary tool to locate our equipment. At that time, there was many errors in the GPS system. It's not very precise. So we must pay close attention to the technological breakthroughs that might trigger industrial shifts. From a corporate governance perspective, I think the innovation mechanism within the enterprise is also of paramount importance. For me, I think each enterprise, for the good enterprises, they must have very good innovation mechanisms and good incentives. Internally, we shall deploy proper incentives to encourage the people that are patient and working hard silently. Maybe they are not making their voices heard, but we should not ignore them. Let me interrupt. Can you give us a specific example? What kind of incentive? How encouraging should the incentive be? Do you have any case study? Any example, or which employee was incentivized and how much money he got? So after 1992, after we are incepted, we have annual R&D conferences. We have 4 super awards, 1 million RMB. You know, it was in 1992. It was a huge sum of money. So the 1 million is awarded to one individual or the team. So the 1 million RMB is awarded to one project. So a spiritual or a mental award are not sufficient. We also need some substantial and tangible award as well. And also, we have another system. We have an error-tolerant system. I think if government can also provide such a error-tolerant system, that would be very good. We do not encourage making errors, but we tolerate certain errors, but we do not allow repetitious errors. In that case, we will be able to encourage innovation because innovation implies trials and errors, right? So it's important to establish a mechanism to encourage innovation, and also corporate culture is also very important. In order to have a continuous and ongoing innovation, corporate culture plays a pivotal role. A positive corporate culture is essential. We want to encourage the morale of our employees and to nourish and to nurture our employees to have a passion and enthusiasm to engage in creativity. So Ren Zhengfei from Huawei once commented that we must have a top-down system, that the managers should have a strict discipline so that they can be good role models for their inferiors. So the above is my understanding based on Zhenhua's experience, how to encourage innovation. Thanks a lot. As the first panelist speaking, you have caught the attention of our audiences. But we have many panelists, but we only have 1 hour. It's my first time to hear you're using this metaphor, something from nothing, the innovative spirit. You dare to start from the scratch. As a global leader in this industry, you have very clear objectives. Conscious of time, I will not make excessive comments. But the last point is maybe the most important thing.
Encouraging company or corporation culture that cultivate such a great, company in many fields is a world leader. Thank you very much. 非常感谢那个陈先生。
Thank you very much, Mr. Chen. Coming next, our second panelist I have introduced before, the General Manager from ABB Marine Ports China, Mr. Adnanes.
The digital and connectivity strategy your company has applied, and the regulations on the International Maritime Organization. And the third one, I would like you to touch upon how are Chinese companies complying with these regulations? 因为我们中国的Chinese companies. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. First of all, I would say it's great to be back in a real conference again after so many months of being virtual all the time. So it's a good sign that there is a life after the pandemic, and I think this is a very good, I would say, example also for the rest of the world who is suffering more than we are doing now in China. So it's very good to be back on stage. Thank you. Yeah, you talked about digital and connected, and if you add one additional word to that one, electric, then we get electric, digital, and connected. And that is actually the title of our marine and ports strategy for the next 5-6 years to come. So we have had quite many discussions on where shall we put our investments in development, not only technology development, but also market and organizational development, and the many pages of strategy boil down to 3 words: electric, digital, connected. That is not only because these are interesting technologies for a company like us and for other companies, but we think that these are the major or the fundamental elements who can support the mega trends in the industry to increase the productivity, to increase safety and security, decarbonization, and what we can see also both in the port side and in the marine side, to develop more autonomous systems, automatic systems, and even unmanned systems, like our partnership with ZPMC, to develop and launch ports, cranes, which are fully automatically controlled, and we are seeing the same trend also in the shipping side, that it is moving in that direction. It will not move like a revolution that next year or 2-3 years later the whole fleet will be autonomous and unmanned. It will come step by step. And for us it is very important that each step we are doing makes sense by itself. So already today there are a lot of elements in place. They are in operation. The technology is available and ready to be deployed. And we also have early, I would say, pioneering companies who are willing to do this investment now and to piloting these new technologies, either fully by themselves or by incentives from the authorities and governments. You mentioned also about IMO, and IMO is extremely important. It is essential for the shipping industry to develop the minimum standards and the minimum requirements for the fleet, and to implement these rules in the national legislations around the world. And without IMO, the shipping industry would definitely not be at the level as we are today. Sometimes with IMO, since IMO is a political instrument, it is driven by governments and the industry also itself, but it is kind of a political instrument. So sometimes it might be a bit frustrating to see the speed or the lack of speed in the rule making and the rule implementation, and also in the activity or reactive approach from the industry to adapt to the rules. I can just mention like this 2 rules on sulfur, reduction of sulfur in the fuel, and ballast water treatment. These rules have been known for the industry for at least 10 years. They will come. And now when they are coming into effect, then the industry is in a kind of a panic situation to adapt. But this has been known for 10, 12 years already. It will come. So sometimes a bit frustrating, but still, this is the only and the most essential instrument that we have in shipping to create a global standard and to create a global minimum requirement. So now when IMO has launched very ambitious targets for greenhouse gas emissions and CO2 emissions now to come in 2030 and 2050, I don't believe that they by itself will be reached by rules coming from IMO. I think that the way to reach those targets is to utilize the dynamics of the industry and the business itself. Because a lot of these things that are the basics to meet these ambitious targets is actually financial sound. And I witnessed, or I saw a presentation from a forum now, a virtual forum in Europe, where a researcher from Marine Tech showed that already today we are, well, to start, IMO has a target that in 2030 it shall be a 50% reduction in emissions. And already today, if you look at the emissions on the transported goods ton per mile, we have already reduced from 2008 level 35% already. And that is not by rules, that is by pure financial evaluation and optimizing the fleet. And so I am quite optimistic that we are able to reach those targets, not only by rules and regulations, but also because it is business-wise sound. It is profitable to go for other way of operating and other fuels. And of course, on the basis, on the platform, we need to have common rules and regulations so everybody in the world will follow it. It was also a question about how could I advise the industry to now look forward and what to invest in and so on. And that is a very tricky question because things and technologies and environment is changing so fast. Just 2020 has been so many ups and downs on a daily basis, so it's very difficult to forecast what is going to happen in the next 3, 4, 5, 10 years. But one thing is quite for sure is that it will be a very fast development in the legislation, of course, itself, but in technology and also in the way the fleet is being designed and built and how it is being operated using the digital revolution and digital technology to optimize the operations, to monitor and to report and to get benefit out of doing fuel savings and doing emission savings. So the benefits comes from monitoring and measuring, and I think we'll see a lot of development and deployment of these technologies and systems in the years to come. So my advice to the industry is that when you are planning now to invest in a new vessel, you should look slightly longer than traditionally shipping has done, looking for 3 years payback on investment. I think you should look a little bit further into the horizon and recognize that the vessels you are deciding to build now will be in operation in 2040 and maybe even 2050. And just looking at what has happened on the technology side the last couple of years, you can just imagine what we will see the next 20, 30 years. So my advice to those who are making decisions for new building now is to make them future-proof. Make a small additional investment today in digitalization, in automation. We can't see exactly how this will be in the future, but it will be much more effectively and cost-effectively to adapt to these technologies if the backbone and the infrastructure on the vessel is in place, both on the propulsion side, but also on this digital side and automation side. So a small investment now can give quite a good yield in the years to come, even though we can't specify exactly today what that will be. But it is definitely necessary to have a backbone and an infrastructure for automation and digital on board the vessel and on the port side as well. And coming to the final question about China, I don't see Chinese ship owners and actors much different from other places in the world. The rules and regulations must be followed. There is not an alternative. If you break the rules, then you're out of business. So we see that in China and elsewhere that everybody follows the rules and regulations. There is not any alternative. But we also see that in China, as in other parts of the world, we also have the front runners who is not bound by the regulations themselves, but they're also pioneering and are testing out new technologies and looking for future-proof solutions. And we have quite many good examples in China also of ship owners and ship operators which are these future-looking and visionary pioneering companies. So, thank you.
Thank you very much. 非常感谢。我们大家应该。
Thank you so much. I think everyone already gets the point. So to start with, we're always on the same page to certain issues such as affected by the COVID-19 in Chinese market. We had physically have to this real meeting.
回应刚刚那个李总的话，我们可以有实实在在的朋友圈的 networking in real life, not just online.
The second thing we'd like to say, Mr. Onad has said that we should not only combine units, APP practice, one need to be electrical. The other is the digitalization. The third point is the connectivity. All this new technology are going to have big issue to the safety, quality, and also profitability of one company. And on the second part, the gentleman has mentioned the International Ocean Organization. And also for some institutes, they think it is really boring and troublesome to combine by the rules. But also the gentleman has mentioned this minimum requirements. And also the other thing we'd like to mention is like as an international player in this stage, we're not forced to comply with it. We have these internal instructions within our company organization to abide by it. It's like a business-wise. and definitely to be conducive for your long-term development. And this has also been mentioned in the third point, especially for the decision making and also the new technology adoption. You should not only focus on the next few years. You need to eye it on the 30 years or 50 years in the long term. The time are going to test it. The decision is the wise one. And in the end, the gentleman has also mentioned that for the Chinese enterprises, etc., when they try to abide by the international rules, the gentleman has mentioned that he's really straightforward, that there's no exception for any companies. As long as you operate within the national framework, it's same for everyone. And also for the Shenzhen Institute and also some enterprises in the shipbuilding and also the ship transportations, these entities, they already innovate a lot, and they are pioneering in this part. Thank you so much. Well, for the third speaker is from the Chair of Engineering Highland Technology, Mr. Changwei. The gentleman is going to share with us big data and also how to use the big data to reshape the marine engineering. And the other points Mr. Li are going to add up. First, I would like to say I feel so honored and privileged to be invited. Well, for the Highland Technology as we established in 2001, we focus on the transportation and signal and other related equipment. Right now, with our research has been penetrated into the other different fields, and especially in smart vessel, we are really working in the front lines. And the other thing I would like to share with you that from the shipbuildings and also the equipment, I would like to share with you how to combine new technology with the shipbuildings and also some new opportunity presented with those technologies. Well, speaking from the automated ships, from the 2001 and 2002, you can say this the ship has been first they appear in Korea, and then later they have to receive like at least 4,000 orders, and this definitely yield a handsome salary and revenues, and they have also show the whole world the value of the smart ships and vessels. We can see not only the performance and the market competition enjoy this boundless potential, and also right now we're facing through competition, and the ship transportation has faced a lot of new barriers. And this is definitely a new source and engine for the revenue generation. So that's why for the next several years, the government has pulled a lot of the force in this part, and this has been not only widely recognized, and right now Korea has liked all those factory, especially the factory of the shipbuilding, to take the lead, and also for the ocean affair organizations, they all try to serve these needs. And along this process, you can see some other problems, such as right now, for some enterprises, they didn't really make money in this part. So what is the problem? Perhaps when it's like the technology and equipment don't match each other. So that's why in the early stage, they have used some cost balance equipment from Norway and Westlight, and also Ming, and all the other main suppliers, and also the main players. And then right now they move on to 2.0 versions. They want to use a new technology to match with the equipment they have. Okay, right now we can turn the page. The second thing we'd like to share with you is about the Japanese ships. They are really down to earth in the smart ships. When I reach out to the Japanese enterprises, I really admire their practice, especially their detail and also their the dedication to those details in shipbuildings. They use the NYK as a lead. And whether it's the NK or the other like the Design Institute, the Research Institute, they are everyone to put together and to cater to the needs of the ship owner to help them to yield revenue. And also along this case, they have used a different benchmark to supervise and also to standardize this industry. Right now, the trend is also quite promising, and the momentum is picking up. And this ideas and technology is acceptable for a lot of different companies because they believe that right now they use the least input of capital to generate the most revenue. So that's why I believe that this is the most valuable practice in Japan. And the others are European solutions. And we noticed we got that for the Cosmogo and the other those leading companies, they have made some meaningful practice, and whether it's like the APP for the sensory in hunting and also like the Wortsley company and the other companies, they have done a lot of similar practice. They want to move to the latest direction, such as late 5. And perhaps they're facing some obstacles, but then they never say stop. And along the process, they want to increase the scientific level of the equipment. So this is the focus of the European solution. And for the Chinese solution, you can see to be honest, you can see that sometimes the solution is more like fragmented into different sections of the market. They have something to do with our scientific culture because we prefer to focus on equipment. Whenever we put a new function, it's always come with a complicated system, and this is like difficult to be accepted by those machine companies because they're going to generate more input of the capital. So that's with a limited operational capital and also the other limited resources. Companies don't really want to accept the solution, so that's why in this case we need to try to learn lessons from those Korea and also like Japan, and whether it's like the laser and what is the other sensory technology. Our technology is like play no second to those companies, but speaking about the smart devices deployment, we still have the gap between us. So that's why speaking about the smart ship and the vessel, we need to go back to the source. That is the need of the ship owners. So if the ship owner cannot generate revenue and then make more income in this process, perhaps they don't have a strong incentive to adopt the new technology. Just now, we noticed like it's applied to the routines is more like the minimal requirement. And according to the Chinese company, they believe the IMO requirement is more like selling. So that's why you can see this is the difference between the 60 grades and also the 100 grades. And especially when I got the type of bruise and also certificate, it gave me a feeling that it only means that I had meet IMO's the minimal requirement. It's more like the threshold, so that's why I call it starting lines. But for the ship owners, it's more like they use a 100 points, and if they don't like the certain points, they are going to deduct the points from the full score. This is the understanding pattern, so that's why for the owners and the users, it's more like when they try to select a 100 points product. But for our research institutes, you got a certificate and then it's marked the end of the project. It's totally different thinking pattern. So that's why for the Chinese parties, you can see that the solution is okay, but you should make sure that it fits more and fits perfectly with our customers' value chain. So that's why you can see speaking about this big framework of the smart ship. What is design, maintenance, and building constructions? And you should see the overall framework. Who is the final party A? That is a ship owner. So along this process, we need to serve this ship owner, make sure during the operation they can make revenue. So you should not see that the logistic is not an important part in this value chain. You should focus on the service and also equipment. Speaking about hardware, you should make sure that they can have the listed input on maintenance cost and try to create even higher revenue. This is what you can consider. And also along this process, and for our Highland technology, and we not only try to call for each parties, even you are those, if you are leading enterprises, you should know that everyone should work closely together rather than rely on a single party to do all these works. Just now I has mentioned one topic such as the French circle. I think this is good. And especially just now I has mentioned the design of different equipment and also for the machinery, etc. You should know that sometimes we need to work closely together with the ports. So that's why, in this case, with the smart shipping technology, when we want to serve those ship owners, we should ask everyone to participate and engage in this designing rather than only focus on equipment. Well, the last slide I would like to share with you is like the core value at top level is like you should make sure the new technology are going to suit better about those ship owners. They can get the better ship and also generated extra value. And the value will be exemplified in this way. And with a better service, more understanding, design, and lasting maintenance service. So this is a value created and showed. We need to try to take a good insight from the Japan and also Korea, and such as the good design, etc. You should also like this the service product. Product is also service, and then use it to trigger the loyalty from the customer. Thank you. Thank you so much, Mr. Li. I think it's quite easy to understand. Even I'm like the outsider of this industry, I fully get your point. You have mentioned that the Korean example and the Japan example from the 1990s till this day, they have done an amazing job and even take a lead in the detailed design. You have also mentioned the European case, and you have also pointed out the Chinese problems straightforwardly, and also some of the other issues such as marine engineering, equipment. In the end, you should see we need to create more added value for the ship owner and definitely have something to gain from the process, so that in the end we can get the benign cycle. And I want to make sure everyone present here. And when you heard the speech of Mr. Li, when we want to build a smart ship or the internet ship in the two parts, we can solve the two issues we face in the marine economy, especially the pain points, and also to help the researchers to get the inspiration they want and to solve these down-to-earth issues.
Next one, we will ask. 我还是读他的中文名字，我就特别喜欢啊，安来啊。
I really like your Chinese name, Mr. Morten Sten Johansen. He'll share with us the robotics role, how to help how this technology, this robotics, more specific, can help in the reshaping of the marine engineering industry.
Thank you for your invitation to this event. You were one of the topic series about cooperation, and I would like to share with you one success story about how leading technology providers and manufacturers have come together to develop a new, maybe not a disruptive technology, let's see, but at least it challenges the traditional mindset of the shipping owners and the shipping industry. I mean, Jotun, we are a world-leading company for marine paints, and on this picture you are seeing a robot. And then maybe you should ask the question, why should a paint company be interested in robotics? And maybe this is cannibalizing our traditional industry. But our thinking is a bit different. We need to be in the forefront of new innovation. We need to be 2 steps of our competitors. And we see that the shipping is under constant pressure. It's under constant change. The ecosystem of stakeholders are changing. We are having more banks and charters, leasing companies, management companies, all pushing for efficiency and transparency. And we do also see that new environmental regulations are also driving innovation in the maritime sector, and we need to be a part of that. So I think the example of the hull skating solution has really brought out the best from the maritime cluster. And I have to say the maritime cluster in Norway, because I'm also the chairman of the Norwegian Business Association, so I have to promote the Norwegian businesses a bit also. Let me just give you a bit of backdrop first. This picture illustrates very well what we have seen in the past 6 months. I mean, the COVID-19 and also the geopolitical situation has created an unpredictable market. Increased disruption and economic pressures has really caused a challenge to the shipping industry. We see that more vessels has been anchored up, they are idling. maybe they have been used as storage because the oil prices has been very low, and you have had the speculators speculating into low oil prices and storing them on tankers. The availability of cargo has changed, and also the trading pattern in the shipping has changed. So this has led to a lot of uncertainty, a lot of economic pressure in the shipping industry. And I think this cartoon maybe describes this in a bit funny and but still very descriptive way, that sometimes the top in the shipping company, they don't really understand what is happen on the ground. We see that economy and cash flow is now an issue, but the investment in new technology and the investment in innovation is not always there. It seems that we are maybe not speaking to the right people and the right decision makers when it comes to innovation. So we will discuss maybe this a bit afterwards in the Q&A session, but I think that when a superintendent is having a budget for his maintenance of the vessel, this is not really always anchored with the ambition and the mission of the company, who is actually looking for innovation. But the investments in new innovation has to come from the top of the company. So one of the consequences when we see this change in the trading pattern is actually that the vessels are subject to fouling. The hull of the vessel, if you have a long idle periods, will be subject to growth. Even though we as paint manufacturers, we are always providing good anti-fouling technologies to keep the hull clean and to ensure that the vessels are trading efficiently and that you don't have this growth. But when you have this unpredictable scenario, it's an environment, then also even the best anti-foulings cannot withstand this challenge. And also when the operational profile of a vessel is changing, then maybe the anti-fouling which we put onto this vessel will not work in the first place. You're changing your speed, you're changing your activity, the temperature is changing, and you're also idling your vessel. This is maybe a bit of a bad example of how it could look underneath a vessel. But, you know, fouling is maybe affecting the efficiency of a vessel by 20 to 30%, and also increasing the fuel cost of the vessel equivalently. IMO, they estimate that the biofouling accounts for 83 million tons of CO2 every year, or $11 billion in extra fuel cost on the world fleet every year, just because of fouling and because we have not really been able to take good care of the shipping hull. So, what can we do to change this? Obviously, we can do cleaning. We can clean the underwater hull, and this picture is also a picture from a diver who is trying to get rid of the barnacles and the fouling on the vessel. But port authorities may not really allow vessels into the ports before they have done this underwater hull cleaning. But if the vessel looks like this, they will probably have to change port or go somewhere else. Also, collecting the debris may also be a challenge. So we, as an authority in hull performance, at least we like to think that Jotun is an authority in hull performance. We are utilizing big data, we are utilizing oceanography, looking into the chlorophyll concentration in the oceans, the salinity, the temperature, and also how the vessels are operating. And we give advice to our customers and our partners on what kind of anti-fouling they should use on their vessels. But back to the collaboration between the Norwegian maritime cluster. So, to overcome the challenge of this unpredictable trade, we decided to team up with the smartest and the best brains in the industry. We decided to ask Kongsberg if they could cooperate on the manufacturing and service of this new robot. Kongsberg, they have 70 years of expertise in the marine robotics and also in underwater hull technology. And Semcom is designing has done the designing and the engineering, and also DNV have been technical advisor and also helping us managing the risk. Telenor, you may not be that familiar with that company, but it's the biggest telecom company in Norway, and is also a global company, is providing bandwidth and also encrypted machine-to-machine connectivity. But okay, so with these partners, we have been able to develop a robot, but we cannot test a robot without having a testing platform. And we also teamed up with Wallenius Wilhelmsen. This new robot and see how it works in practice. I just want to say I really appreciate the collaboration with these three companies. They are really forward thinkers, they are early movers, and they like to take on new technology and also test new technology. And the hull skater, I just want to show a short video. Let's see if this works, just so you understand more what this is about. So you can see that the robot is driving along the hull of the vessel, and this means that the robot can reach 95% of the ship hull, and we want to go from reactive cleaning to proactive cleaning. This means that we are removing any early stages of algae. So this means that by having an inspection and a cleaning 8 to 12 times per year, you can, in practice, you can have unlimited idle periods of your vessel. So you don't have to be concerned about 30 days, 24 days. In principle, this is infinite. And we can reach, in 2 hours, we can inspect 10,000 square meters. And this robot also moves at 1 meters per second. I think, again, the technical innovations are really the key to achieving sustainable innovation. And some of the success factors for this project has really been that we have had market-leading experts contributing to this development. We have had really professional players with a clear ambition to make a difference. Everyone, we are there to pursue sustainability. And also, we want to make the operations of the vessels more efficient and sustainable. It has definitely a global potential, and it will have a huge environmental and financial benefit. Because eventually, I think that's where we have to convince the owners, it has a huge return on investment. And if the companies don't understand this, they will not take on board this new innovation.
Okay, thank you. 非常感谢啊。我们刚刚也
Thank you very much.
What he says echo what the previous guests have mentioned. 有一点就是说是跟从一开始那个李斌先生开始。
So what he said echoes with the previous panelists' statements. He mentioned the word forward thinkers.
我们都要有超前的思维。
We must have forward-thinking skills. And Mr. Johansen said at the start that we are actually a paint company, and why would we be interested in robotics? He also shared with us that in innovation, a key point is to change our mindset. Only by doing that, when there's real changes, can we cope with it, or we will not be panic, and we have a plan B, plan C immediately.
We have a lonely online speaker, Rajesh Unni. So here on stage, speakers have finished their presentations. Now it's your turn to give us your response. Hi.
Hey, hi. Thank you for having me here. And it's great to see that people are able to come and meet in person and be part of the conference. So I'm extremely grateful for this opportunity. And I was quite keenly listening to what some of the fellow panelists have said. So there are 2 or 3 things, and just coming from our background, Synergy is now headquartered in Singapore, and we manage close to 350 odd ships, ranging from LNG to containers to bulk or chemicals and other kind of ships. So we predominantly come from an operating background, and for us, I think we look at this whole agenda on digitalization in 3 buckets. One is technology, the second is process, and the third is people. And I think the easier part to solve is technology. And then progressively the process is next, and the last is people, in my humble opinion. So if you look at technology, obviously we also went into the smart ship area. So today we have about 200 odd smart ships on our platform. So in that sense, we have some understanding of, what are the key benefits that some of these innovations can build on. So I think to start with, for any startup or anyone who is looking at coming into this space, when you look at history and when you look at companies on why some of them have succeeded and why some of them haven't, I think one of the key issues that come very clearly is timing. When I say timing, it's about confluence of, do we have the right mature technology that's available, and then do you have the people and the organizations that can adopt some of these technologies. Whether you take the case of Netflix or anyone else, there were many people who did the same thing before Netflix came in, but I think it's also about coming in at the right time. So I think to start with shipping, we are at the right time. We think that we have enough bandwidth that's going to come online. We have maturing technologies, whether it's big data science or IoT or cloud. So infrastructure that's coming online, so which I think is a good thing. So we have obviously an opportunity to explore and use some of the technology that's available to enhance reliability, optimization, and productivity on our ships and also ashore. And I think one thing that's happened is that, like, carrying on that point, technology has changed. The expectations and the demand from the customers or consumers have changed. And I think the speed of change has also changed. So which means that we need to be a bit agile and be able to adapt to the changing needs and demands of a consumer. And I think the more we look at it, the consumers of our service today demand transparency, they demand trust, they demand so that you comply with social and your environmental obligations. So when this happens, I think there is a greater need to drive digitalization on the ships. When I say digitalization, it's not about just saying that today I'm doing this manually, can I do it digitally? That's one way of looking at digitalization. But the other way of looking is to how do we create a new operating and business model in itself that makes this innovation more sustainable? Are we talking about marginal innovation, or are we talking about radical innovation? These are some of the things that we need to reflect upon. So I think this is just my initial thoughts on the tech side. And obviously, once this changes, then the processes that we today adopt in operating these ships also need significant revisit. So there will be need for us to unlearn a lot of things that we have learned and relearn a lot of new things that can then help and adapt to the changes that's happening around us. So I think that's the effort that we see on the process, and it's an ongoing effort. And I don't think that we all would love an autonomous ship to be there, but I think it's a journey. It will take time. There will also be a lot of these assets that are floating in water today that will also be, there around. So we will need to focus a lot more on how do you make these assets more future-proof them in that sense. And the last is, I think, the people. The mindset is a big one. So I think people need to have that mindset to say, accept new change, to unlearn and relearn. And that's the key. And like I think most of the speakers said, and I don't think it's just top or bottom. And the key reason for us at ships, or I'm a seafarer at heart, and I'm still, I like to go on ships. So for us, we are very practical people. And because we are at sea, we also look at what's helpful. So in that sense, the constant discussion is people are not willing to share data, people are not willing to share that. But I think the first discussion is if we share data, what do we get in return? So how are you helping us in our day-to-day work today? Because the pressure on the OPEXs have increased substantially from the past. So people are looking at OPEX and operational expenses a lot more closely. So I think that we need to also be mindful while we encourage a lot of radical innovation, we also need to be mindful of the fact that this needs to come in small steps, and we will also need to prove value as we go along. Because I think once we do that, I'm reasonably sure people would love to embrace innovation. I think the challenge here is people are facing is I think they're not able to articulate that value proposition so clearly that people are not adopting. And once you articulate that value creation very clearly, I don't think there's so much of a challenge discussing about how do you monetize or how do you capture that value creation. So these are the three things that we see as operators, and also having done a bit on these smart ships, we have connected multiple systems, and we also built a lot of data applications, whether it's for end consumers like oil companies, whether it's in Japan or in the US. And we also built models that help operators today to optimize their ships better. How do you ensure that your ships are reliable, say north of 90%, for example? So there are those kind of things, because that's a very tangible and visible results for people when they decide about investing into some of these things. So I think the more we give visibility for people, I think the greater will be the interest to come up with such investments. And I also agree with one of the speakers that going forward, we need to look at a little bit more longer term on the investments so that we can future-proof some of the ships that are being delivered these days. Happy to take any questions.
Okay. Thank you very much. The comments from Singapore. So yes, people and how to tackle changes and challenges. You should be agile. That's the thinking issue we have all mentioned. I would like to ask just not a yes or no, but give me your option about speed up, accelerate, or slow it down for the next question, because I would like to leave some time for every speaker here to raise a question to another speaker on stage. 接下来我们有一个问题呢，我只想让
The next question would like to invite everyone to mention that whether it's going to speed up or going to slow down, because like we would like to open the floor later for those present audience, and you can ask a question to the other panelists.
How about your views on the cumulative impact of the COVID-19 epidemic and of the global economic slowdown to the technological development of the marine engineering industry? Will it accelerate or slow down our technological innovation? 新冠疫情
So for the COVID-19 and this pandemic, what kind of impact are going to have the smart shipping, whether it's a slowdown or it's accelerating?
So I will start to make a definition of the term innovation. And if you look in the internet, for example, there is one formula that explains innovation as the multiplication of creativity and ability to implement. So innovation is not only creativity, but also the ability to implement. And if you look at today's situation with the pandemic and so on, the ability to implement now is not as high as it should have been, of course, because of the financial impacts and other effects. But creativity is higher than ever. And we have seen that I've been in this industry now for 25 years, and there has been some ups and downs. And what we have seen in the down period, we can mention 2009, we can say 2000, and even 1990s, we had real bad downturns. But in those downturn times, the creativity was very high, impressive high. And when the market came back again and the activity picked up, then also the ability to implement came. So yes, my answer to your question is yes, it will speed up.
Speed up, yes, yes.
Yeah, I think Alf is spot on. Implementation is maybe a challenge now due to the economic downturn, that the willingness to invest in new innovation, which I also said in my introduction, is not there. But innovation is also a consequence of new regulatory requirements. So I don't think maybe COVID-19 as such isolated will impact any innovation, except for, like you said, maybe there will be some more creativity as a consequence of this. But more environmental regulations will certainly drive innovation.
Okay. Yes.
Well, according to myself, smart shipping and smart technology, even without the COVID-19, the whole world or the other country on other continents are going to try to speed up there's a smart technology, but the impact of COVID-19 on different countries is totally different. So if you consider different industry and distinct countries, their attitude towards online technology and the smart technology is a little bit varied. So such as in China, whether it's the Alipay or the WeChat, people in China are not used to carry cash these days, but in European country or American, you can see that people still prefer to use cash. So that's why, according to me, for the enterprises, you need to use the least cost to generate the most revenue. So for the smart shipping technology, we need to push it forward. But as for the application or implementation, whether they're going to achieve in a short time with a fast speed, they're going to be down to the enterprises itself, whether it's the IMO or the other international organizations. Perhaps they are going to help to drive forward this whole process, such as the IMO in the very beginning, to drive forward the radio usage. I know that it's postponed for certain years because it has something to do with the enterprise's acceptance. That's why I believe technology are going to go forward and never go back. But as for whether they are going to implement to it first, you need to consider the application of COVID-19. Well, I would like to share with you from my own perspective, because we always focus on the vessel itself and also the transportation. So that's why we feel it really personally and strongly during the COVID-19. In the past, we already carried out the research in the smart shipping in the past 5 years. But this year, when a lot of the company came to me and told me that sometimes for those crew members, it's difficult for them to get down or get up. So that's why, against the background of COVID-19, how to make sure we can reassure those staff. You should make sure that the safety is the top priority you need to solve, and then you're going to move on to the other things such as profitability. And for the crews, they are going to work a 3 shift. It's like really troublesome and back-breaking works. If they cannot get a really good rest during the work, you're going to see that they're going to spend a really tiresome hours working. So that's why they have a really high expectations for this technology, especially those Singapore expert has mentioned this technology. We think highly of it, but you should know that the value of it needs to be testified first. We need to use a concrete example to show its value, that we can solve the issue for people to some extent. And there's the other thing we'd like to share with you, which represent hope and expectations for this company. I have received a call from the other companies that they want us to have the research of the smart technology. They want to make sure that they can achieve those unmanned operation, even use the double track. So you can see that everyone, or the majority of the people in this industry, they want to embrace the technology with a more open mindset, and they believe that smart technology can solve the issue. But when you implement them, you need to be more down to earth. And the implementation needs to be a stable one. Okay, now let's move on to Mr. Li. So because just now you have mentioned you last want to finish all this opinion, would like you to ask the question first for the panelist here. We're speaking about the smart technology implementation. Just now one has mentioned that IMO has played an important role along this process. Right now, it's an international meeting and also the International Standard Organization. We can feel the passions from those industry institutes and also the carefulness of those the other organizations. So what kind of the road they're going to follow? I would like to ask the Norway expert, because we know that Norway has done a lot of amazing works in the new technology, and some technology come from the Norway. So we'd like to ask the Norway expert first, Mr. Jordan.
Can you repeat, just repeat the beginning of your question, please?
I want to know what do you think about that the processing about for the smart ship and smart shipping from the IMO policy? How do you think how long or what the steps will be adopted for the shipping industry?
Yeah, I think, thank you for turning to the Norwegian businesses as such, because I think we all know that Norwegian technology providers and manufacturers within shipping have come very far. We're also looking into autonomous shipping and smart shipping as such. And I think that all these Norwegian companies, they have an innovation and they have a drive towards smart shipping, which will benefit also the shipping industry, also in China and globally. So there's certainly a potential there. But when it comes to the IMO, maybe Alf, do you know more about the smart shipping IMO regulations? Or not regulations, but IMO smart shipping steps?
No, I can't say I know too much about it, but there are ongoing works and there are also rules coming and so on, but very much related to security, data security and cyber security. On the IMO is not driving too much of the functionality that you are putting on board. They are more concerned about the security and the safety of the operation. So there are also coming in this year new regulations on cyber security for vessels, which will be mandatory.
Yes. Jotun, from you, which speaker would you like to propose a question?
Maybe I can. I would like to ask: do you think there are good enough initiatives for Chinese ship owners today to take on board new innovation? Do they have clear initiative schemes, or do they need more funding so the threshold for taking on board new technology would be easier for the ship owners in China?
So for Chinese ship owners, I think they are following the steps of IMO from an operation perspective. But from the industry perspective, we are following the pioneers in the international arena, because our industrial foundations compared with Japan and South Korea, there are still some distance. So in terms of research investment, Chinese industry, we are very affirmative to invest in these sectors. But technological breakthroughs requires the alignment of our objectives and more focused on the value proposition of the shipbuilding industry. That would manifest our research results. So in terms of our attitude and understanding of the value of research, we have reached a consensus, and we are certainly following this trend. Thank you. So any question from you, Mr. Chen? So the coastal economy development is a national strategy. Today's topic is leveraging the technologies that are reshaping the marine engineering industry. My question is for you too. In developing marine economy, what would be the key focus or key directions? Today we have talked about a lot. To develop marine economy, what will be the key directions for the future?
So Chen would like to ask two foreign guests about what are the future developing orientation or direction in this shipping and marine engineering industry. Thank you.
I can try to answer that one, but I'm not the fortune teller, so I have to make some guesses. But I think I'll go back to what I said initially here also, that if you look at these more macro trends or the bigger trends in the industry that is going towards low carbon or decarbonized shipping, We also see a trend on this autonomous and maybe not fully automatically or unmanned vessels, but autonomically supported fleet. I think those mega trends, they are continuing. And decarbonization, obviously, because of the environmental effect. And the other trends is to increase the productivity and to get more gain from the shipping and optimize the fleet. It is purely to stay competitive. The ship owners need to do it, otherwise they are losing competition. So, and that will last, whether it is COVID 2022 or whatever. Those megatrends, they will last in the decades to come. That's my prediction.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and I think unless you have funding or backing from the government, then the ones who are forerunners or first movers, they are the ones who will win, and they are the ones who will still have a sustainable business, I believe. Also, the ecosystem of shipping is changing quickly. We will have more bankers, we will have more asset players, and this will also change the mindset of the industry.
Okay, thank you. 在我总结之前，最后一个机会啊，来，我们幸运有没有那个？
Okay, before I close this forum, we have time for one question from the audience.
3、2、1没有。
3, 2, 1. Okay, no question.
Okay, so thanks everybody, both on stage and online, and also so many audience. You're paying your attention and time, and I think you have learned a lot. I would like to say that what I have learned from this section is innovation should be unstoppable. We should be patient. Maybe it won't be implemented very soon. 就结合几位嘉宾的讲啊，
So based on the panelists' presentations, innovation is unstoppable, but we should be patient. The timing maybe will not arrive very soon, but although the COVID-19 pandemic is still ongoing, but innovation will be accelerated. But the implementation will take some time.
Engineering, this sector. Today, all of the speakers give us a very, very good lesson. It's like for everything, we should be forward thinkers, and we should be agile in tackle challenges and changes. Like COVID-19 is a disaster. Nobody prepared for it. It happened. If you have a lot of plans, then you still would leap ahead forward. So then last thing I would like to say, also based on what our guests have mentioned, 也非常感谢啊这次的主办方。
I also like to thank the organizer to create
all of us here to have the social networking. We can talk face to face, and I think more importantly, there will be more contacts, connection after this event, so that we can really reshape the marine engineering industry. Thank you all. 非常感谢。好，那我们今天这场就结束。
This forum is adjourned.